Beelzebub, why are you here? Hmm? Why are you here? Say hello. Hello. Hello, welcome back, and if you're new here, my name is Becca, and today I have the worst books I've read in 2017. So first of all, I want to apologise if I seem quite out of breath or if I start coughing. I'm not very well at the minute. Ever since I was little, every time I get sick, I get like a problem with my lungs and I can't breathe very well. But I'm trying to persevere so I can get these videos out for you. So honestly, I haven't read a lot of terrible books in 2017. So this list is sort of split into the actual awful books that I've read and the ones that were just kind of really disappointing. I'm going to start with the disappointing ones first and then finish with the two that I really think are trash. So let's just get into it. So first up we have the Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare. This is the prequel series to the Mortal Instruments and it consists of Clockwork Angel, Clockwork Prince and Clockwork Princess. The problem that I had with these is that everyone says that they prefer them to the Mortal Instruments, and I gave all of the Mortal Instruments books 4 or 5 stars, and so I expected great things from these, and then I read them and I think I gave 2 of them 3 stars and 1 of them 4 stars, so the series has an average of a 3.33 stars for me. Did not like them. I really liked the characters. I really liked Tess and Will and Jem, but I don't like the plot with all the clockwork devices or the villain or any of the side characters. I don't read a lot of historical fiction and I don't think I'm a fan of historical settings in books, although I would have to read more from that type of genre to be able to say for sure. So these just kind of fell flat for me and I was disappointed because I expected to love them as much as I love the Mortal Instruments. Next we have an audiobook that I listened to, and that was The First 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North. I ended up giving this one 2 stars. The problem that I had with this is that the concept was really great. It is about a group of people who are sort of reincarnated, so when they get to the end of their life they go back and live the same life again, and I think the whole plot is that the end of the world is coming from the future, so people who are dying pass on the message to the children of the next generation to pass on to somebody of the next generation to try and trace the end of the world forwards through time to stop it from happening. That was a really great premise and I loved the idea of the reincarnation, but the problem is that it was so repetitive because the person was born back into the same life. Like, you had at least half a chapter on his childhood every single time he was reborn about how he knew that he wasn't a child and what was happening to him. And then the plot just got a little bit long-winded and wordy and kind of boring, and I don't think it was executed as well as it could have been. So that fell a little bit flat for me and I really ended up not liking it. Next up, and don't kill me for this, was another audiobook that I listened to, and that was Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. Now, before you all unsubscribe and hate me, I completely attribute disliking this book to the fact that I listened to the audiobook. I gave it 3 stars because I really liked the concept, characters were interesting, but the narration of the audiobook was terrible. It was flat and I found myself just drifting off and not paying attention and just waiting for it to be over, and it's only a short book. It's like 100 and something pages. It's not long at all. So I am going to give Every Heart a Doorway another chance in physical form, and I'm also going to try and read Down Among the Sticks and Bones, but this year, listening to the audiobook of Every Heart a Doorway, I really didn't like it. Next up we have The Versions of Us, which I read this summer and I haven't hauled it, which is why I don't have it to show you. I think it's by Laura Barnett. This is another one where the concept was absolutely amazing and it was pegged as One Day by David Nichols meets Sliding Doors, the film. So it's sort of about the butterfly effect and how if one thing in your life changes, it changes the course of your life. So every chapter in this book had 3 different versions of events. It starts off where the 2 main characters meet, and in the first version they meet and go on to live sort of happily ever after. The second version, they miss each other and they don't meet, and then throughout the book they kind of tend to lead very separate lives. And in the third version, it's from her perspective, where they do meet but they break up a couple of chapters in. So it follows all the different decisions that you make and the different things that can possibly happen when even the slightest little thing of your life is changed. And the thing that I didn't like about this is that it was pegged as One Day or similar to One Day, and it didn't have a happy ending or even like a bittersweet ending or anything that was remotely happy. I just found it very realistic, completely de-romanticized, and it just didn't hit the mark for me and I wasn't a fan. So I ended up giving this one 2 stars because I was really disappointed when it was marketed as similar to One Day, and I just found it to be so underwhelming. Next up we have Alice and Red Queen by Christina Henry. This is a duology and it's a horror retelling of Alice in Wonderland, so naturally I was super interested in reading it. However, I just didn't think it was very good. I was super excited because anything Alice in Wonderland I'm down for, but it just seemed to be very unplanned, not scary, just twisted, and everything was very convenient. Like, they'd go on an adventure to search for something and they'd get held up in one place and then they'd stay there the entire book, and then lo and behold, the thing that they were looking for turns out to be where they got held up, even though that's like a million miles away from where they were going to look for it. And I just wasn't a fan. I believe I gave the first one 3 stars and the second one 2 stars, but in hindsight they should have both got 2 stars. And the only reason that I still have these on my shelves is because my boyfriend bought them for me last Christmas, so it's sentimental value. Otherwise these would definitely be being on hold because I'm just not a fan. Next we're moving into the books that I just thought were bad, starting with Silence by Becca Fitzpatrick. This is the 3rd book in the Hush Hush series. The first 2 books of the series I gave, I think, either 4. I gave them at least 3 stars, but possibly 4. And this one I gave 2 stars because essentially it's a filler book in the series, and right at the beginning the main character Nora loses her memory for no reason, and so for about 150 pages she has no memory of anything, and then when she gets it back, to make it realistic, the reason why she lost her memory, she'll keep asking Pat stupid questions that the reader knows the answer to. Like, he'll say, oh, fallen angels, and she'll be like, ooh, fallen angels, what about this? And then he'll answer her, even though it's a question that's been like thoroughly answered in the first 2 books, and it's just unnecessary. I found this book to be complete filler. The last 100 pages were really good, like the other books, but this book did not need to exist. The second book or the last book could have been longer, and this could have been completely removed, and it just seems to me like Becca Fitzpatrick had a publishing deal to produce 4 books and she didn't have the content to fill 4, so she had to make something up that didn't fit with the story, was completely boring and unnecessary, and it just took the series completely downhill for me. Next up I have Sex and the City by Candace Bushnell, and I also gave this 2 stars, although in fairness I didn't expect much from it and I liked it more than I thought I would. The main problem with this, apart from it being a fluffy adult contemporary, is that it's written in a columnist style as though you're reading a magazine. I have talked about this a lot in other videos, but it was also very, I want to say, sexist and self-inflated and arrogant, and I really didn't like it. And yeah, it just wasn't a good book, and I gave it 2 stars, and this is actually in a bag to be on hold as we speak. Well, it's not because it's in my hand, but that's where I got it out of to film this video. And the absolutely worst book that I read in 2017, you have heard me talk about before quite recently because I read it in November, and that is The Betrayal of Natalie Hargrove by Lauren Kate. This book is very short and it took me around a week to get through. The character is self-absorbed, she's arrogant, she thinks she's amazing, she's selfish, she's fascinated on being Palmetto Princess, which is like prom queen, and then even when somebody dies she doesn't care, just cares about the Palmetto Princess and how this person dying could have ruined her chances of becoming the prom queen. The plot went absolutely nowhere. I got interested in it about 30 pages from the end, and then instead of answering the questions that I had, it sort of added more questions to the mix, and it was just terrible. I gave it 1 star, absolutely would not recommend. I wouldn't recommend anything by Lauren Kate. Keep that in mind if you ever want to read the Fallen series. I think all of her work is terrible. And yeah, just the worst book I've read. Awful. So that's everything for my worst books of 2017. Please leave a comment below and tell me what your worst book is and what you thought of any of the books I've included on this list if you have also read them. Overall, I didn't actually have that many bad books. A lot of them were just disappointing but were still sort of okay. So I don't think it's been a bad reading year overall. Please stay tuned for tomorrow where I will be posting my best books of 2017. Aside from that, I hope you have a lovely New Year's Eve. Please don't forget to like if you like this video and subscribe if you want to, and if you head into my description box you'll find my links to Goodreads, Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those. And that's everything from me today. Bye!